You bought the ticket at a gas station off Route 41 on your way home from a shift at a warehouse where you'd worked for 9 years. Quick pick, $4. No system, no lucky numbers. You didn't check it that night. You checked it 2 days later, standing in your kitchen, and you sat down on the floor, not dramatically, just because your legs did it without asking you. Here is the first thing you did, and it tells you everything about how the next 6 years would go. You did not tell your mother. Not that night, not that week. You told her 4 months later, after you'd already met with a lawyer, already set up an LLC, already decided, before you'd spent $1 of it, that the number itself was worthless to you unless it became something boring. Because $500 million spent loudly disappears. $500 million turned quiet and structural doesn't. You just didn't know yet what quiet would look like. The lawyer's name was Priya Nakamura, and she was the second person to know, and the first person to tell you the thing you needed to hear. Annuity, not lump sum, was the wrong question to be asking 6 weeks in. The right question was what you were going to become. She said most of her lottery clients treated the money like a finish line. She said the ones who kept it treated it like a starting inventory. You took the lump sum anyway, $287 million after the federal cut, then state, then an irrevocable trust structure that took another 4 months to build correctly. What landed in the checking account that Gerald Ott didn't ask about was $198 million. You remember the number the way you remember your old employee ID, not fondly, just permanently. For the first 3 months, you didn't buy anything. You kept going to the warehouse. You told your shift supervisor, a man named Denny Kowalczyk, who'd hired you 9 years earlier, that you'd inherited some money from a great uncle and were figuring out taxes. Denny said that was a pain in the ass and to let him know if you needed the day off for paperwork. You worked 4 more shifts after that conversation, not because you needed to, because you didn't know who you were if you weren't the guy who showed up. The spark, the actual first purchase, was almost an accident. You were driving past a self-storage facility off County Road 9 that had a hand-painted "For Sale, by Owner" sign zip-tied to the chain link, the kind of sign that's been rained on enough times to go soft and gray. 42 units, half occupied, an owner named Walt Trzebatowski, who was 71 and tired and just wanted somebody to take it off his hands before his knees gave out completely. You paid $340,000 cash, closed in 11 days. Net income, after the property manager Walt recommended stayed on, $2,900 a month. $2,900 a month against $198 million. It should have felt like nothing. It felt like the first solid ground you'd stood on since the gas station. So you did it again, a coin laundromat in Brazil, Indiana, the actual town, not the country, that came with 19 machines and a lease on the building with 6 years left on it. $190,000 in, net $3,400 a month, and the previous owner, a woman named Carol Vance, left you a spiral notebook with every repair she'd ever made written by hand, which machine ate quarters, which one needed a new belt every August like clockwork. Then a stretch of billboards along a 2-lane state highway, 4 of them, sun-bleached, advertising a mattress store that had closed 2 years prior. $410,000 for the leases and the structures. Net $6,100 a month once you released them to a regional insurance company and a personal injury attorney who wanted his face 40 feet tall facing eastbound traffic. Then a car wash, Then a strip of 6 parking spaces behind a downtown office building in a town with more lawyers than parking. Each one boring. Each one profitable in a way you could hold in your hand, write down in a notebook of your own, understand completely. Unlike the number in the trust, which you had started quietly to think of as belonging to someone else. The contrast arrived at a Chamber of Commerce mixer you almost didn't go to. His name was Trent Wysocki, and he ran, or said he ran, a growth consultancy. And he drove a Lamborghini Urus he'd leased through the business, and he wore a Richard Mille that he mentioned within 4 minutes of shaking your hand, unprompted, the way some men mention their kids. Trent asked what you did. You said you managed some rental properties. Trent's eyes went past your shoulder before you'd finished the sentence. You let him. You'd learned by then that being underestimated wasn't an injury, it was cover. Trent spent the rest of the night working the room in a jacket that cost more than your laundromat's monthly net, and you spent it talking to a woman who ran a landscaping company and 3 weeks later sold you 11 acres you turned into a self-storage expansion. Not glamorous, not even interesting really, just quiet and yours, and getting bigger every month while Trent's Urus needed its second brake job of the year. By year 3, the notebook system stopped working. You had 11 properties and a spreadsheet Priya's office insisted you use, color-coded by asset type, and a property manager named Ruth Alvarez, who you hired full-time once the storage facilities alone hit 4 locations. Ruth had run maintenance for a hospital system for 20 years and treated a broken gate motor with the same flat urgency as a broken elevator. You paid her more than you'd made in your best year at the warehouse. She never asked where the capital came from. You never told her. The asset types kept widening the way water finds cracks. A second car wash, this one with an attached vacuum lot that made more per square foot than the wash itself. A block of 6 vending machines in a hospital break room, placed there by a man named Otis Reyes who was retiring and wanted them gone fast. $9,800 for all 6, net $1,100 a month. The smallest deal you ever did, and one of the ones you were proudest of because you'd negotiated it yourself, no lawyer, standing in a break room that smelled like burnt coffee. 11 acres became 40. 40 became the beginning of a small industrial park you leased out unit by unit to a machine shop, a cabinetry business, a company that repaired forklifts. The number in the trust, meanwhile, sat mostly untouched, growing on its own in index funds Priya had structured, a separate thing from the life you were actually building, the life measured in net operating income and quarterly reports from Ruth, not in the balance you never looked at. Your best friend since middle school, a man named Marcus Odom, called you in April of year 4. His daughter, Skylar, had been accepted into a specialized program for a learning difference, and the program cost $18,000 a year that Marcus and his wife did not have. Marcus wasn't calling to ask. Marcus would never ask. He was calling because he needed to talk to somebody, and 11 years of friendship meant you were the somebody, and he had no idea what talking to you actually meant anymore. You could have paid for it in the time it took him to finish the sentence. 4 years of tuition wired that night, gone from a spreadsheet Marcus would never see. You thought about it for exactly as long as it took to picture doing it, and then you didn't. Not because of the money, because of what an unstructured, sourless $18,000 would do to Marcus, sitting across from you at a diner 2 months later, wondering, always wondering what else you had and hadn't said. A gift like that doesn't stay a gift. It becomes a secret Marcus carries that you already carry too much of alone. So instead, you told him about the storage facility, Not the $198 million behind it, the storage facility specifically, the one Walt Trebutowski sold you, and how it cash flowed, and how a man with decent credit and $11,000 saved could put a down payment on something similar if he found the right distressed seller. You spent 6 Saturdays with Marcus driving around 3 counties looking at chain-link fences and hand-painted signs. In September, Marcus closed on a 4-unit storage lot of his own, financed conventionally, no help from you beyond your name as a reference and your afternoons. Schuyler started the program in October. Marcus paid for it himself on a payment plan from income that was his. You never told him why you really knew so much about self-storage financing. He never asked twice. Some nights you wondered if restraint was wisdom or just another way of staying alone with it. But you knew, watching Marcus hand a receptionist a check with his own name on the memo line, which one let him keep his shoulders back. 6 years in, Priya's office sent the document that was supposed to feel like the whole point, and instead felt like a Tuesday. A consolidated net worth statement. PDF, 11 pages, sent to your email at 6:40 in the morning while you were standing in the kitchen in the same house you'd bought 2 years after the ticket. Not a mansion, a 4-bedroom on a cul-de-sac with a detached garage where you kept the truck you'd owned since before any of this, the one with 190,000 miles on it that Ruth kept telling you to retire. Page 3 had the number, real estate holdings, business interests, index positions, cash reserves, net of debt, $512,400,000. You read it standing at the counter with the truck's keys still in your hand, on your way out to check on the second car wash, where a pressure washer had been leaking overnight, according to a text from Ruth. You did not sit down on the floor this time. You put your phone in your pocket, finished your coffee, and drove to the car wash, because a leaking hose doesn't care what your net worth is, and neither, really, did you, not in the way you'd expected to 6 years earlier. At the car wash, the manager, a 19-year-old named Julio Fuentes, who was saving for community college, showed you the hose himself, apologizing like it was somehow his fault. You told him it wasn't, and that you'd get a plumber out that afternoon, and you meant it, the way you meant everything now, plainly, without performance, the same voice you'd used with Denny Kowalczyk about a great uncle who never existed. Trent Wysocki's consultancy folded that spring. You heard about it secondhand from the landscaper who'd sold you the 11 acres. Nobody mentioned it to you like news. It wasn't. The vending machine in the credit union lobby, the one that ate your dollar the day you opened the account, is still there, still broken. You still try it every few months, out of something that isn't quite superstition and isn't quite nostalgia either. Maybe just a way of checking that you're still the person who'd bother to try. Nobody at the car wash or the storage lots or the industrial park knows what the number on page 3 says. Gerald Ott retired 2 years ago. His replacement has never asked either. What would your life actually look like if no one could see it? Not even you, most days.